All right, nothing else heard. Let's get started then with tonight's net as a whole. I shall begin by saying greetings to one and all, especially those who are listening, and welcome to this week's net. Those wishing to join the net using Zoom, I do so now as Zoom is open. And if you do not have the Zoom link, please contact me on WhatsApp 082-859-2684, and I'll send you the link with the greatest of pleasure. Today is Sunday, the 20th of August, 2023, and the time is 19:05. We begin the weekly net with radio amateur check-ins on the Rudderpert repeater for 5 minutes before proceeding. This net is broadcast every Sunday evening starting at 1900 and is broadcast for the benefit of radio amateurs, disaster relief cert volunteers, and members of the general public. This net is therefore open to all interested parties. Everyone is welcome to participate using either amateur radio, Zoom, or both. And I'd like to remind all the radio amateurs who have not checked in that you do not need to be a member of any group or club to check in or to use the repeater or any of the amateur radio bands. All that is required from you is that you have a valid amateur radio license issued by ICASA, which automatically grants you the rights to use any of the amateur bands at any time. Therefore, there is no need to ask for or be granted permission from anyone to use the repeaters or amateur radio bands. I'd also like to encourage all the listeners and participants to share the weekly net Zoom link with everyone they know throughout South Africa. Doing so will help us grow the weekly net and will contribute to disseminating information as far and wide as possible. Okay, ZS6OPS returning. It's now time to unpack the weekly COVID-19 figures, and just to remind you that all the tracking sites have in actual fact closed down, with the exception of the World Health Organization, who is still reporting on a weekly basis. And as such, globally, 769,774,646 cases were reported by the World Health Organization as at 6:30 on the 16th of August 2023, compared to the 769,000, my apologies, 769,369,823. This week we see an increase on the week-on-week figure, sitting at 404,823. Compared to the 386,728. So around about 20,000 more cases. The global death toll now stands at 6,955,141, compared to the previous week's total of 6,954,336. Again, an increase in the deaths, that's standing now at 805 new cases this week compared to the 593 of the previous week. I'd also at this point just point out that there is a new variant that has been detected throughout the world. South Africa's first case was also reported by the NI or the National Department of Health, at least this week as well. Right, ZS6OPS returning. Mpox has now been reported at 89,391 cases globally as at 14 August 2023, in total compared to the previous week's figure of 89,308. We're only looking at 83 increase, and I think last week's massive increase was due to the fact that they didn't have increases or reports for several weeks. South Africa's figures are still standing at 5, so nothing to write home about that on that one. However, as at 18 August 2023, South Africa has reported 1,133 cases of measles, compared to the 1,129 of the previous week. Again, this week we are only up by 5, or 4 at least, I should say, and the Limpopo still leads the pack with 516. Compared to the previous week of 515. Northwest, no change at 218, and Gauteng is reporting an additional 1 from the 190 last week, bringing the total to 191. I also need to just remind everybody that these figures are adjusted week on week, so next week we'll probably have figures going back 2 weeks, and of course that skews our figures. Right, Z6 OPS returning now on another lighter note. Yesterday, 19th of August, was the World Humanitarian Day celebration. And I'd just like to state that as we mark World Humanitarian Day on 19 August each year, I'd like to quote from the United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs website. And of course, this year's theme is no matter what, for those that have not heard the term or phrase for the celebratory week. So as quoted, we stand shoulder to shoulder with the communities we serve, no matter what. And on 19 August 2003, we lost, 2003, we lost 22 colleagues in an attack on the United Nations in Baghdad, Iraq. The tragedy profoundly changed the way in which humanitarians operate, from being respected to being targeted, and led to the creation of World Humanitarian Day, otherwise known as WHD, or Whiskey Hotel Delta. Today, 20 years on, our work has grown in scale and complexity. We aim to help almost 250 million people, 10 times more people than in 2003. As our efforts have grown, so too have the challenges we face. From rising geopolitical tensions and the blatant disregard of international humanitarian law to deliberate attacks and disinformation campaigns, our work is more difficult and dangerous than ever. Amid these trials, we have grown stronger, and we are closer to the women, men, and children we serve. We venture deep into disaster-stricken regions and closer to the front lines of conflict, with no other purpose than saving and protecting lives and delivering the basics of life: food, water, shelter, education, health, nutrition, and protection. On this World Humanitarian Day, we will reaffirm our comment, or at least our commitment to the values and humanitarian principles that guide us, and show us that we stand shoulder to shoulder with the communities we serve, no matter who, no matter where, and no matter what. Well, I think that was quite an excellent write-up from them this morning, or at least yesterday, which was published on the website. So this is where I take my hat off to every single person who does things in a humanitarian aspect throughout the world. And I'd just like to reach out and say thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Right, Z6 OPS returning after clearing the timer. So in closing, I'd like to encourage everyone to register as a disaster relief cert volunteer and to prepare and train to assist local communities for when disasters strike. Radio amateurs who have not yet checked in, please provide your call sign now and I'll add you to this week's check-in list. ZS6 OPS standing by. Okay, that being said, nobody coming up on Zoom tonight as well. And regardless, I know that there will always be people out there that are listening. I'd like to thank all of you for being out there, even if it was just by listening. That's not a problem. I do appreciate the time. So as the COVID-19 pandemic is still ongoing and still infecting thousands weekly, please remember to physically distance yourself and to wear a mask to protect others, especially the elderly who could lose their lives if infected with COVID-19. And that remember, this is always best to sanitize, that it is always best to sanitize your hands on a regular basis in any event. Doing so will also assist in stopping the spread of other respiratory diseases as well. For the week moving forward, be safe, be prepared, and of course, be happy. This is ZS6 OPS now releasing the Ridderpoort repeater for general use. Cheers all.